Okay, here's a quick process drawing of a nude figure that I'm doing mainly for practice. Um, this always starts with a line, in this case an S-curve. This isn't really meant as a tutorial, it's just kind of a watch me draw type of thing, because a tutorial would require a lot more in-depth explanations. Figure drawing is something that I always try to keep in practice with, and lately I've been feeling a little bit out of practice, so I have to kind of force myself to get back into it. It's one of those things that's never easy, it's always really difficult, and it kind of makes me think of JFK's quote about going to the moon is, you know, we don't do it because it's easy, but because it's hard. That really kind of sums up figure drawing as well. I'm using as my model a painting that I saw in the National Gallery in Melbourne a couple of weeks ago. It's one that always caught my eye in the large grand gallery room that they have there. It's by a French painter, Jules Lefebvre, and the painting is called La Cigalle, or the Grasshopper. Strangely enough, this is an allegorical painting that refers to the story of the ant and the grasshopper, where the ant is industrious through the summer, but the grasshopper is always playing and then is caught unaware by winter. As far as I know, this allegory has no basis in reality. I think grasshoppers do just fine in wintertime. I'm sure they manage to survive. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any grasshoppers. But this painting is simply of a nude standing outside. I love that the 19th century artists, painters, were always able to squeeze in an allegory as an excuse to paint a nude. You have to love them for that. The question, I suppose, is how are these two forms of expression related? How are the visual and the audio, musical side of the brains, the creative hemispheres, complementary to one another? I suppose that for me, drawing has always been a therapy, and it is that thing that kind of relaxes and soothes. And when I am stuck on a musical idea, I can always turn to art to kind of calm the savage beast. The other thing, I suppose, is that it affords me the opportunity to listen to music. So when I'm drawing, that's usually when I'm checking out new albums or things that I've been recommended to listen to. And I can even, watch movies or entire series, which is also another form of inspiration. The human form is definitely one of those eternal subjects that we always end up referring back to, I guess in the way that Hamlet said, oh, what a piece of work is man, and the Greeks said that man is a measure of all things, and in some ways you think of the human form as kind of like an illustration of the golden ratio. I'm not even aware as to whether or not the golden ratio applies to animal anatomy, but it is kind of fascinating how much it has to do with human anatomy. One of the tricks that I've always used when doing figure drawing that I learned from Stan Prokopenko is to think about the story behind the pose. And I found that this was really helpful. You think about the story that the body is saying, that is telling, and that tends to find its way kind of subliminally into the pose. I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever given in that regard.